All right, everybody, welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're going to be predicting the outcome of the entire playoffs. It's going to be a different one. We're finally at the playoff time of the year, the best time of the year. It's a lot of competitive games in this wild card round, so I'm really excited to get into the playoffs. How are you, Stores?
I'm doing good. Some of these teams that are in the playoffs just mind-boggling. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'll say the Steelers, the Rams, the Browns. I mean, the Browns are really good, but like the Lions, the Texans, it's a wild playoff series, and it should be pretty fun to talk about.
Definitely a lot of teams that we didn't expect at the beginning of the year, for sure. A lot of kind of crazy Cinderella story runs, and let's just get into it. We got a lot of kind of predictions to get into, so we'll start it off with you. I'm interested to hear your Bills Steelers pick. We'll start it off in the wild card and then kind of rotate after that.
Yeah, this one, the Bills just had a pretty good statement win over the Miami Dolphins. The Steelers were able to just kind of squeeze their way into the playoffs. Honestly, it's pretty amazing how they're able to get to 10-7. It's incredible. I don't even know how. I mean, they lost to the Cardinals and the Patriots and still somehow were able to save their playoff hopes. It's incredible coaching. But with that being said, the Buffalo Bills are a much more dominant football team and actually have a quarterback back there. I mean, you're kind of you've been kind of makeshifting quarterback for the Steelers, and you're somehow still in the playoffs. But then you just lose T.J. Watt, your best player, on either side of the ball. He's used your dominant difference maker. And so yeah, it's pretty plain and simple for me. This one, I'm gonna be going with the Bills. On all aspects, I think they are better. I think the only thing the Steelers have better is coaching, even though Sean McDermott is no slouch. But I mean, really, the difference is the team and Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen versus Mason Rudolph. It's really no competition to me. So that's why I will be picking the Buffalo Bills, and this is probably the most confident pick. I feel like in all of this, I feel like the Steelers do not belong in the playoffs, even though they are here. So apparently they do, but I feel like they're probably the most unserious playoff team.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin is gonna coach them up really hard. I think they're gonna kind of play with absolutely nothing to lose. I think they're gonna go out there and play really hard. That being said, it's not gonna be enough at all. I got the Bills as well. We don't really have to even talk about this game much. The Steelers are by far the least competent team in the entire race, the entire playoff race, whatever you want to call it, and the 12 teams or the 14 teams now in the playoffs, they're by far the worst team. And not really an argument. You don't really have to talk about this game too much. Expect Josh Allen to maybe throw 3 picks, maybe have a careless game, and it won't really matter. It really won't matter. The Steelers defense isn't even really playing that good with TJ Watt, and they probably won't have him in this one. So I don't really even see it being an even match. The Bills are a different juggernaut at home as well. So I'm just excited for the Bills to kind of dominate, excited for Josh Allen to keep his momentum going, but I don't really see too much of a matchup. So we'll go on to the NFC. We'll go in for the Cowboys and Packers matchup. Who do you got in that?
Yeah, this one I'm gonna be going with the Pack or sorry, excuse me. Said the wrong team, the Cowboys. Got ahead of myself there. The Packers are having kind of the Cinderella story. They're the youngest team in the NFL, the most inexperienced team. They do have a really great coach in LaFleur. But they've kind of had this late season resurgence. Their defense is playing absolutely, I mean, to be honest, quite terrible. And they still made it to this far. And that's kind of the opposite of the Cowboys. The Cowboys just have a dominant defense that can put up points at any, given time. They can turn over the ball. Micah Parsons can get after the quarterback. And so I expect Jordan Love's day to be kind of rough and constantly under pressure and facing a really good Dan Quinn defense. But yeah, the Cinderella story, it's sad. It's going to be coming to an end, I believe, in this week. It should be a fairly, decent matchup. I feel like they'll be competitive, but this Cowboys team is just going to probably force, an inexperienced, Jordan Love, who's in his first career playoff game, to make some critical mistakes, and that should ultimately be the difference for the Cowboys.
Yeah, LaFleur is the far better coach than McCarthy. I'm blinking, but yeah, I just really I think this is going to be a very competitive game. Jordan Love is playing great football. I do think that this is going to be competitive. The Packers and Cowboys are just a classic playoff matchup. The Packers going to have the Cowboys number in the playoffs, so I really do think this is going to be a really close matchup. It's going to be a kind of a coin toss. I really do think that the Packers match up well against the Cowboys. Their defense has been playing better, so I do think they won't be able. I don't think the Dak and CD will be able to put up too much points. So I don't know. I think this is gonna be a really good game. I'll go to my pick. I am gonna pick the Cowboys. I'm not that crazy, but I am pretty confident this will be like 31-28, a pretty close game. I think the Packers go in there and play with nothing to lose, similarly to the Steelers, but Jordan Love's a lot better quarterback than Mason Rudolph, and I think Jordan Love can kind of have his teammates rally around him and the confident style of play he plays with. So I do think the Packers will play hard. I don't think it'll be enough. The Cowboys are kind of different this year, and in other years they probably would have dropped this game, but I think they at least get this one.
Yeah, I don't really feel like the Cowboys can afford to possibly lose another playoff game. They have to make a run. I feel like they have to make it to the NFC Championship game, in my opinion, or this entire organization and the fan base is absolutely going to implode. So I think, the Cowboys are here to win. They've really shown us, quite a dominant, seasons thus far. And I mean, they have the star pieces. They've stayed healthy for the most part. And yeah, I mean, like you said, the Packers have had the Cowboys, number. It should be a pretty good game, but this Cowboys team is just so much, I mean, when you're really going through roster talent, the Cowboys are just so much more talented and just have, those real true stars, those veteran stars, from DeMarcus Lawrence to Micah Parsons, I mean, to even Dak Prescott, who's a little bit more experienced, who's definitely lost a lot of big games, but he's been in these games. So it should ultimately be the difference. But this could be a fun one. And maybe the story doesn't end, but I'm not that brave to pick the Packers.
Yeah, like you said, McCarthy probably would get fired if they lost that game. So I do think the Cowboys kind of have to win that one. And let's go back to the AFC. Let's go to the third seed Chiefs. Who do you think is going to win between the third seed Chiefs and the sixth seed Dolphins?
Well, you've kind of been listening to me preach to the choir all year long, and I told you so the Chiefs will not win a playoff game this year. I do not think the Chiefs are a good football team this year. I think their record doesn't reflect on who they really are, in my opinion. I think their record's better than what it is. I mean, their defense, rightfully so, deserves a lot of credit. They have been playing, far and above what anyone expected. And the defense is really what's been carrying them. It's not the same old Chiefs. It's not the Mahomes, Travis Kelce show right now. I mean, really, Travis Kelce's been really shut down the last few weeks. He hasn't done much, and this offense is kind of it's just revolved like you've been saying. It's the run first Chiefs. It's Isaiah Pacheco is the best player on the field right now, and then rookie wide receiver Rashee Rice is probably the most confident pass catcher out there right now. And I just do not think they are what they are hyped up to be. Obviously, they are so good in January, so good in the playoffs, but give me Mike McDaniel's team. They're hungry. They're coming off of a brutal loss to the Bills. They got to go to the cold. But man, I mean, Achan and Tyreek Hill, the speed. I feel like they'll be able to get behind the Chiefs defense. I feel like they'll make them struggle enough. And I feel like they'll ultimately come out with this one. So I want to ride the hot hand. I want to ride the Dolphins. I think, this season, I feel like they need a playoff win. They really need this. Tua needs it. McDaniels needs it. And I'm tired of the Chiefs. And I think, that I don't think they should be here. I don't think they're that good of a team. And I think the Dolphins will knock them off.
Yeah, so I 100% agree that the Chiefs aren't the same team. I have all people have been saying that they aren't the same scary juggernaut that you have to be scared of in the playoffs. That being said, this is where we disagree. I am gonna pick the Chiefs in this one. I do think that this is just a terrible, nightmarish matchup for the Dolphins. Going into the inclement weather, it's going to be like 0 degrees, -16 wind chill. Sounds like a disaster for the way this Dolphins team plays, and just they're in Miami. I'm honestly pretty confident in this one. Like, just there's so many different aspects to this. It feels like a Patrick
There is
Mahomes.
a feeling. There is a feeling that you go into the negative weather, the Dolphins, their environment they play in is so different, and it's the Chiefs in the playoffs. It is. I just, and yeah, I'll let you finish. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it is the Chiefs in the playoffs. Like I really, really trust Mahomes to, if anything, at least figure it out in one playoff game in this wild card round. They probably lose in the second round, but surely Mahomes, Kelsey, they've been saving it up. Surely the run game should be able to actually get going in this game. I think Pacheco kind of matches up nicely in this game as well. And kind of the another thing pointing to the Chiefs in this one is their defense is by far the best unit in this matchup, which sounds crazy, but the Dolphins offense hasn't been playing as good as of late at all the second half of the season. The Chiefs offense obviously hasn't. And the Chiefs defense is honestly the best unit in this matchup. I think Spagnuolo kind of matches up well against Tua, the way the Dolphins play. I'm really confident that the Chiefs actually not dominate. It will be a close game. It definitely will be a good game in the nighttime. It's going to be an awesome one in Kansas City, but I am confident that the Chiefs do come away with the win in the end.
Yeah, and I'll say this is probably my most unconfident game in picking, but it should be a pretty good game. But yeah, when I say this, not super confident, but I really just think the Dolphins are a better team. And I think that brutal loss that they just took to the Bills, well, ultimately, I feel like they just got that stinker out of the way, which I feel like is good. I feel like get that stinker out of the way, move on from it. It's playoff time, and it's time to win. It's time for Tua to show why he deserves to be on this team, why he deserves to get that contract. There's a lot on the line for the Dolphins right here, and you know maybe my bias. I'll admit it. Maybe my bias is coming in. I want to see the Chiefs lose. I really want to see them lose. I would love nothing more than the Chiefs to lose.
I honestly do too. But like another thing is the Dolphins injuries are just they're getting to the point where they're piling up almost too bad. It's like season spoiling. It's really it's getting bad. They're number one edge to replace Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, who are both out of injury. Andrew Van Ginkel went out for injury. Just like everything is going wrong for this Dolphins team. They probably won't have a Mostert or Waddle. It's just a disaster. So yeah, just it's gonna be a fun one no matter what. I just kind of trust the best player in football to kind of figure it out and get right in the end. But let's go on to your Lions versus Rams matchup. This is gonna be a really, really, really fun matchup.
Yeah, this is a very intriguing one. It's the reunion game. Matthew Stafford going to play Detroit. Jared Goff, going to play Los Angeles Rams. So it's a homecoming reunion game for both quarterbacks, which is
Lots
which
of
is really
narratives.
yeah, which is crazy. That's kind of something I don't think we've ever seen in like a playoff picture. Both of these guys moving on to different teams, leading their teams to the playoffs, which is kind of sad because I want to see both these teams make a run. However, if I'm going with one of them, I am going to go with what I think is the better team. I think the Lions are the better team. I think on paper they're the better team. I think the Rams are a little young. I mean, I think to start the season, I think the Rams had like 40 undrafted or late round picks, like sixth, seventh, and undrafted players on their like roster. It's ridiculous. But I mean, Sean McVay, who's not being talked about enough for Coach of the Year, um, is just this is an incredible season and what he's done. And this mini rebuild that they did, it only took really 2 years and they've come this far. It's nothing short of amazing. But like I've been saying, the Lions have been one of my sweetheart teams. I'm really, really excited to see how far they can go in this. And I think they will. I think they will get a win in the playoffs, and I think they will knock off the Rams. And I think they are a little bit better of a team. But the narratives, like you were saying, there's a lot of narratives in this game. I think the way the Rams are going to be able to throw against this decimated Lions defense is a big narrative, and I think the way the Lions are going to run against the Rams is a big narrative. So it should be a really exciting game. This might be one of my more favorite games to watch. But however, I am rolling with the Lions in this one.
I like it, and I'll get into my pick. I disagree with you on this one as well. I'm gonna go with the Rams. I think it's a great matchup. You obviously laid it out perfectly. It's endless storylines, endless narratives. It's going to be insanely fun. But You went with the better roster, and rightfully so. I think the Rams' weakness, like the thing that might get them in the end, is like their inferior roster has been taking them far, far, but it could be their downfall in the playoffs. I could see like just their roster talent just stopping, hitting a wall in the playoffs, and that being the reason they lose this game. But other than that, I'm just going to pick the Rams. I'm going to pick the better coach, the better quarterback. I think Stafford's been playing great, great football that no one's really talking about. I think McVay has just been coaching circles around everyone in the entire NFL other than Shanahan, really. So I'm not confident, but I am somewhat confident that the Rams do kind of shock the world in this one. I think this is an interesting matchup because both teams' weaknesses really play into each other's strengths. Like the Lions' secondary is just absolutely atrocious, and the Rams' passing attack is awesome. So that's going to be very interesting. But we all know the Rams' running attack is awesome with Kyron, but the Lions have like the best run defense. So yeah, I don't know. And the Rams' defense has been honestly playing really, really good with Raheem Morris just coaching his ass off. He probably deserves a head coaching job at this point. So I am confident that the Rams do get the W. It's going to be an awesome matchup. Goff versus Stafford. It's electric, but I'm going to go with the Rams.
Yeah, I love your pick. You're riding with Sean McVay, coach of the year, in my opinion. Even though I've said like 10 different coaches of the year, but Sean McVay really deserves to be in that top three category. But I'm just reading right now. Looks like which could be huge for the Lions or could be devastating. Uh, Dan Campbell said that tight end Sam Laporta has an outside shot to play. So he's saying it's days on his injury and not weeks, which is good news. But I don't know. Outside shot to play kind of seems a little suspect to me. I don't know if he says he'll know within the next 48 hours, but that could be a huge difference maker in this one.
That's a very, very big X factor. I guess that's a good time to plug it. We're gonna be posting our wild card weekend preview and predictions episode a few days from now. So definitely stay tuned. We're gonna have a more in-depth kind of preview of the wild card weekend with kind of more information on injuries and such. So yeah, and on this game, I think that's about it. We covered it well. You mentioned Laporta. If the Laporta injury was worse, I think they should sign Zach Ertz. I can't believe no one has signed Zach Ertz. It's kind of random, but with that, let's go back over to the AFC. Who you got in the Browns versus Texans rematch from a few weeks ago, where the Browns dominated, but Stroud didn't play in the game. So.
See, this one was honestly just so tough for me. I was just flip-flopping back and forth. The Texans have been like my sweetheart team almost all season long, and the Browns are just playing some crazy dominant football. So, I mean, this one pains me to say because I really, really, really wanted to go Texans, but I feel like the way the Browns are playing, I feel like their roster is so well built. And, I said the Texans are the other Cinderella story. I mean, how they got here is just incredible. But the Texans kind of are decimated quite a bit by injury right now, and they're somehow still able to win the division, which was awesome, which was awesome to see. I mean, this is for what they've done from last year to this year, and how D'Amico Ryans has turned this organization around has been just nothing short of just awesome. It was so cool to see. I know me and you were hyping this team up so much in the offseason. I mean, literally how they've constructed their roster is just quite perfect. Um, but you have lost a lot of key pieces of your team. And it seems like this Browns team outside of quarterback has just stayed so healthy. But it seems like they really found something in quarterback with Joe Flacco this offseason. And they're just so well built, and their defense is so good. Their line is so good. Their run game is so good. Their receivers are playing so good. David Njoku's playing the best football we've ever seen him play. Joe Flacco looks like he's just had this incredible resurgence on his career. It's like we keep saying 2013 Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco is out here right now. And so I am. I'm gonna roll with the Browns. I think they're built for this time of year. I think they're built for the weather. And I think they're just, they're a team built for the playoffs, and they're gonna run you into the ground until you're gonna tread water, and then they're just gonna drown you. That's what's gonna happen ultimately with the Browns. They're built to last, and that's why I have them in this game.
Yeah, you said that really, really well. If there's any quarterback that, would go and play the best defense in the NFL and play them really well in his first career playoff game, it would be CJ Stroud. It definitely would be him. He's the coolest cat in the world. Nothing phases him, clearly, as we saw in his first primetime game in that Colts game. But I think I have to pick the Browns as well. It's just it's hard to pick the Texans. You can definitely see it happening. I think both of us can. I think we struggled not picking them because you can easily see it happening. They're such an electric team, and really anything can happen with that kid Stroud. Personally, I think their offensive play calling, they slow it kind of puts the training wheels on Stroud like at the end of games in the second half once they get the lead. They kind of stop pushing the pedal. I would like to see slow it kind of change that and then push the pedal more with Stroud because obviously you can. I feel like that Colts game they could have won by like 20 and they definitely kept that way too close. They've been doing that a lot this year. But I just think the Browns defense, it's perfect. They have a week of rest after resting their starters last week. They're going to come in hot, fired up. The NFL is a big mental game too, and the Browns did go into Houston just a few weeks ago and really dominate the Texans with Flacco. I know Stroud, Will Anderson didn't play in that game. It's a huge difference, obviously, but I do think in the end the Browns come away with the win. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be awesome. One of the better ones of the weekend, but Flacco will probably find a way. He's been there before.
Yeah, 100%. It just feels like experience and the way this team is built will just they're just gonna outlast the Texans. But yeah, the Stroud Cinderella story has just been awesome. He's been one of the best rookie quarterbacks in NFL history, and I can't wait to just see how he progresses and moves on going forward in the next few years.
All right, well, let's move on to the last wild card game, the last NFC wild card game, the Eagles versus Bucks. It should be a pretty good one. Who you got now?
Yeah, you know, the way the Eagles have been playing, the way they finished out the season, going 1-5 is kind of ridiculous. And then on the other side, you have Baker Mayfield just playing a really hot brand of football. They've really come together. But ultimately, with that being said, I am gonna go with the Eagles. I don't know what's going on with the Eagles now. I am scared to pick the Eagles, but you know, I mean, their record is just, I mean, they were able to go 1-5 at the end of the season. They're still in the playoffs with ease. And they've had some pretty big statement wins. I mean, they beat the Chiefs. They beat good teams this year. Um, and I do think they'll figure it out here in the playoffs. And I do think they will. I feel like the pass rush will get to Baker. Obviously, their secondary is atrocious. So, I mean, if their pass rush isn't getting there, Baker might be able to just torch that secondary. But I really think Jalen Hurts is going to turn around in this playoff game. I feel like he has to. It was an embarrassing loss to the Giants last week. And I mean, it's just, in my opinion, they have to. I mean, I don't know why they look this bad. They have one of the most incredible offensive lines in football. They have A.J. Brown, who's really been quiet. He's really been quiet lately. Devontae Smith, Dallas Goddard, DeAndre Swift. I mean, these guys really got to step it up. You know, somebody's got to do something for the Eagles, and I feel like they will. I feel like they will here come the playoffs. I feel like they will turn it around, even though this is a hot Buccaneers team, and if I was the Eagles, I would not be walking into this one confident.
You said this is a hot Buccaneers team. I would agree with you, and except for like the last few weeks, though. I think this is honestly two teams who are just really cold. They might be two of the coldest teams in the playoffs right now, just because the Bucks, got dominated by the Saints 2 weeks ago, and then last week they squeaked by the Panthers. If it wasn't for Chark fumbling out of the end zone and a few touchdowns called back, they should have lost that game. So I probably would have picked the Buccaneers if it wasn't for the last 2 weeks, but they have just they if you pick the Buccaneers, it's just wanting the Eagles to lose in the playoffs. It's just wanting to pick against the Eagles because they're playing so bad as well and they're so cold, but they're still such a better team. They've been here before, obviously going to the Super Bowl last year. They'll figure this one out at least. I'm pretty confident in that one, even if they're on the road. Something kind of unfair for the Bucks, as well as this game's on Monday for some reason, the only Monday game, and AJ Brown is very questionable. So you're just giving more time for AJ Brown to heal up. So he should be able to go. I could see him going. So yeah, I do think the Eagles just have more star power. They're gonna come away with it in the end. They kind of have to, or else Sirianni's probably getting fired.
Yep, exactly. Sirianni, he's got to prove something this year without Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, and then this carousel of incredible coaches.
All right, well, let's move on to the divisional round then. Let's go back over to the AFC. Let's see who you have winning in the game between the number one seed Ravens and the number six seed Finns.
Yeah, this is pretty simple for me. The Ravens, they get a rest, they get to get healthy. They got that first round bye. John Harbaugh, who I'm gonna say again, probably coach of the year candidate, should be. I don't think anyone's even mentioned his name. I'm not sure why the best team, the coach isn't getting hyped up. But the Ravens are really playing insane. Lamar Jackson's incredible. MVP. And yeah, this one I really don't have too much to take away because I think the Ravens go in here, and you saw what happened the last time these two teams played. The Ravens handled business, and that was pretty much it. Just on all aspects, the Ravens will handle business, no problem.
You could probably expect the same exact outcome as the first time they played, the same exact ass beating. And in Baltimore, it would be pretty funny. I'll go over to my divisional round pick for the Ravens over the Browns in this one, since there's playoff reseeding. Ours is a little bit different. I do have the Ravens beating the Browns in the Joe Flacco revenge game. We both have the Ravens moving on to the AFC Championship, and rightfully so. They're the best team in the NFL. They have been all year. It's we don't really have to talk about this one for too long. And this one would be a really, really great matchup, though. This would, in my opinion, the Browns would be the team that the Ravens would say they wouldn't want to face in the entire AFC, just because, they haven't really faced each other since the beginning of the year. And it was a lot different circumstances back then. And I really do think the Browns match up well against the Ravens. And this would be a very, very scary game. I don't know. I could see Flacco somehow getting it done against his old team, and it would be just a crazy storyline. But I think I would have to pick Lamar to prevail in this one at least and make it to the AFC Championship in his MVP season.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Riding with the Ravens, they're an incredible football team.
All right, and then let's go back over to the NFC. Who do you have with the 49ers versus Eagles?
Yeah, again, this one seems like, a walk in the park for me. With how the Eagles have been playing, I think they squeak out of the Buccaneers game, but you got a tough one here in San Francisco. And again, the 49ers, kind of like the Browns, like I said earlier, you can tread water as long as you can, but eventually you're not going to be able to tread water as long as the 49ers will. And they'll drown you too. They're they're a team come January that's built to last. And excuse me. And they're built to last, and this is a playoff team. And Kyle Shanahan is a lot better coach than Nick Sirianni. And I think come playoffs, you will realize that tenfold.
Yeah, I don't even really think this would be a close matchup. The Eagles probably squeak by the Buccaneers, so it makes sense that they kind of get slapped by the 49ers in the second round. I think it would be kind of a the same thing that happened when they played each other in the regular season. The Niners kind of are just a way better team. And I'll go to my divisional round pick for the Niners. I have them beating the Rams in a really, really close game. I think I'll say right here, this is my take. I think the winner of this game, spoiler alert, wins the Super Bowl. I think the Rams or 49ers, it's going to be an insanely close game. They went 1-1 and they split in the regular season. I think the winner of this game does win the Super Bowl. Both teams are just so hot. They're playing like juggernaut football. And I do think the Rams would, or sorry, the 49ers would edge out the Rams barely in this game. I think it would be really, really close with all the Rams' momentum. If they could win that first round matchup against the Lions. So if they're, I don't know, man. I want to pick the Rams even. Like this is going to be really close. Purdy does if he does have one flaw, it's big primetime games against stars like Aaron Donald. I could see him having a breakdown game against the Rams, but I will go with the 49ers. What do you think about it though?
Yeah, I mean the Rams, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, what's a playoff without a storyline or something crazy happening? So, I like that you said that. Whoever wins this game could win the Super Bowl. Um, it's wild. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I obviously respect your decision to go with the 49ers. They are the better team, obviously on roster. But I mean, two great coaches going at it. A Shanahan versus McVay would just be awesome. And yeah, whoever does win this, it could be. It very well could be, the Super Bowl winning team, whoever comes out on top of this one.
All right, well, let's go back over to the AFC. Who do you have with the Browns going into the number 2 seed Buffalo?
Like you said, you kind of had this in the obviously our playoff seeding is panned out differently. But yeah, ultimately the Browns, I have the Browns, in the fifth seed going against the number 1 seed Ravens. Um, this again, this is a game, like you said, this is the Ravens don't want this. They would rather play anyone else but the Browns. And the Browns did knock them off earlier in the season. It was one of the Ravens' few losses. And who was that quarterback at that time? I can't remember. Was it
We're on Browns Bills right now.
oh, sorry, excuse me. I'm ahead of myself. Um Browns Bills. I was looking too far ahead. Yes. So if you couldn't tell, I am picking the Browns. I'm picking the Browns to go to the AFC championship game. If you couldn't tell by the way I was talking, then you could probably see by the way I'm going from there. But yes, again, Browns Bills should be a really good one. Flacco versus Josh Allen. The Browns defense is ultimately what picks me over the Bills. I feel like they will make Josh Allen make too many mistakes. He will turn over the ball too much, and the Browns will be in better field possession all game long. They have the better rushing attack. They have the better linemen. And again, like I keep saying, the Browns are just going to end up drowning the Bills. The Bills are going to try and tread water. Josh Allen's going to play hero ball. He's going to make too many mistakes, and the Browns will ultimately capitalize on that and field possession and everything. And the game will be in their favor all game long. So it would be a rough game for the Bills.
I was thinking that was bold, but honestly, the more that I think about it, you're right. That would be kind of a disastrous matchup for Josh Allen. That would be like the one team that probably could beat him right now. So yeah, I do agree. I could see that setting up that fun Ravens Browns matchup. That would be electric. Getting Joe Flacco to the AFC Championship. I hope so. That'd be really fun. I'll go over to my divisional round prediction for the Bills. I do have them beating the Chiefs actually in and it's going to be in Buffalo this time. They've been kind of dominating the Chiefs in Kansas City, so I'm pretty confident that they kind of continue that in Buffalo. I picked the Chiefs to beat the Dolphins, but it's not going to be very pretty. They're not that same juggernaut team that they have been the past few years. They still have the best player in football, no doubt about that. That's why I do think they win the first round, but I don't think they get past Josh Allen, who's playing just alien juggernaut football right now. He is playing just really, really good football. He might be the MVP if I'm thinking about it. Really, if I'm really getting into it, Josh Allen might be the most valuable player. Definitely, like statistically, he just blows up and he does some crazy things. Obviously, that Bills team had a rough patch, but it's fun seeing how hot they are right now. This momentum that they've gained. I am pretty confident that they would beat the Chiefs team, and I think they're going to be in the AFC Championship no matter what.
Yeah, I love that from you. And like you said, for like a team that relies more upon one player, I don't think there's anyone that relies more upon, the Bills relying on Josh Allen. I mean, and it's kind of why there's a lot of people who get on Josh Allen for a lot of mistakes, but he almost just has to play this hero brand of football and go out there and do everything. From running the ball to just making ridiculous throws, he's just got to put the team on his back, and he does a really good job of that. I mean, he makes his fair amount of mistakes, but I love that. I love them knocking off the Bills, kind of in a revenge game from the playoffs, a couple of years ago, where the Chiefs squeaked out with like 6 seconds left on the clock. But I love that.
All right, and then let's go over to the NFC. Who do you have in the Cowboys versus Lions matchup?
Yeah, this would be this would be a fun game, and this one was really hard because obviously the Cowboys and the Lions just barely played each other. It came down to the wire. It came down to Dan Campbell ultimately going for two and losing, in a kind of a controversial game. But I'm kind of riding this tangent of I really think this Cowboys team just is healthy enough. Their defense is lethal enough. I think the Lions, depending on how banged up Sam Laporta is, Khalif Raymond got hurt too, and just depleted secondary. I just feel like the Cowboys, even in a rematch where they played each other so close, I feel like the Cowboys would ultimately come on top of this one. And I'm really banking on the Cowboys defense for just big plays and big moments. Obviously Deron Bland has shown all year that he can get a pick six at any given moment. Cowboys can block kicks, field goals. They're just electric enough to win big type of games and to ultimately have the ball roll in their favor. And so that's why I'm picking them in this one.
Yeah, I like that. I agree. I definitely think the Cowboys are just kind of a different team. They seem like they're kind of destined for the NFC Championship this year. So yeah, I'll go over to my pick as well. I do think it's going to be the Cowboys. Going, I do have them edging out the Eagles in my matchup. I think they kind of own the Eagles. They're by far the better NFC East team. So I don't even think it would really be a close game if the Cowboys and Eagles played. I think the Cowboys kind of just own them, and Dak and CD, they kind of deserve an NFC Championship slot.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like it's just kind of deserved and it's long overdue. And I feel like they will. I feel like this is the year.
All right. With that, let's go on to your prediction to see who wins that Browns and Ravens game.
If you didn't get the hint earlier when I was a little ahead of myself, it will be the Ravens. The Ravens are the most dominant team in football. They are probably one of the more given healthy teams coming off a first round bye, which I think is huge for them. Um, and being able to rest most of their starters last week. So I am gonna pick this Ravens team. I just feel like they're too lethal. They are the most hot team in football right now. They did go in there and beat San Francisco. They beat up all these big name teams. And it's Lamar Jackson's turn. It's time to see Lamar Jackson in a Super Bowl, MVP of the league. It's a storybook season for Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, Mike McDonald. Just incredible, incredible football from every side of the ball. And yeah, I think it's the Ravens season.
All right, so we both have the Ravens beating the Browns in the playoffs, just at different times, different rounds. And I'll go over to my AFC Championship pick. I actually have the Bills over the Ravens.
Oh,
I've
dang.
got the
I didn't notice. I didn't look at yours beforehand, so this is surprising to me. This is crazy.
Yeah, we've got the live stores reaction. I've got the number 2 seed Bills edging out the number 1 seed Ravens and making that Super Bowl. The Bills have really impressed me down the stretch. They can win in so many ways since getting Dawson Knox back and just the emergence of Dalton Kincaid and James Cook in that offense, especially those two have really just opened it up. When you watch the Bills, you feel like they should just like run the ball every play and they might be more effective just running the ball. They can kind of beat teams on the ground. So they're just a really well-rounded team. I really think that they're just well-oiled for the playoffs. They're gonna just click in the playoffs. And I think this might be the year. It kind of felt like it definitely wasn't in the middle of the season, and that's kind of how Super Bowl most years Super Bowl there's usually a weird Super Bowl winner. So I just have a feeling it could be that Bills team that has a Cinderella one run and has a fun trip to that Super Bowl. Do you think it's possible or?
I definitely think that's possible. I mean, they're a sneakily good football team. They're kind of the more underrated football team. I mean, they're the team that everyone had high hopes for and then just kind of disappointed mid-season. I mean, they had a chance just a couple weeks ago to not even make the playoffs. They would have lost to Easton Stick and the Chargers. But like you said, they're the most unpredictable team all season long. They'll go and knock off, the Chiefs, and then they'll go and barely beat Easton Stick, and then they'll go and lose to somebody, who's not even good. And it's the story of the Bills. But if they can just hit it right this postseason, they can just the right things you can fall in their lap, and the ball falls their way, then absolutely. I mean, I could see it. I mean, that's a bold pick. I like it. It's obviously exciting to see. So I'm here for it.
All right, well, let's go back over to your NFC Championship. Who do you have with the 49ers versus Cowboys, 1 versus 2 seed?
Again, this is kind of a Cinderella story for the Cowboys. Um, they lost earlier in the season to San Francisco. San Francisco said they're giving everyone the blueprint. Um, and I think the Cowboys are going to come into this one pissed off. I think San Francisco might come into this one a little cocky, thinking this should be a walk in the park. But I could see Brock Purdy making some mistakes. I could see I could see the Cowboys defense, coming on top of that. You have Dan Quinn, who's been to the Super Bowl, who's had his fair amount of mistakes and has learned from them. Um, and you just got a Cowboys team that is just so desperate for something big to happen to this organization. Seems like they haven't really been relevant in the last 20 years. You haven't heard anything since the Cowboys really had Troy Aikman. They went through their Tony Romo phase. They've been through a lot, this franchise. Obviously, they have a ton of Super Bowls, but that's for before most of us were even born at this point. Um, and so I think it is the Cowboys' year. I think they'll come in here. This is kind of my Cinderella story. I think they'll upset the 49ers. I think they'll catch them, falling asleep at the wheel, and they'll go in here and they'll play the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, honestly, like the more you talked about it, I think the Cowboys could match up well against the Niners in a playoff environment. I could see the Cowboys defense taking advantage of Purdy if he does have a stinker game. I actually could see that. That would be really fun. The Cowboys in the Super Bowl, if they made it, that would be an electric matchup. Dak and CD versus Lamar. That would be really, really fun. I guess I'll go over to my NFC Championship matchup. Nothing crazy, but I've got the 49ers edging out the Cowboys. I just think that, the Niners are the best team in the NFL, the most well-rounded, just well-oiled machine that just kind of dominates and runs through everyone. You breaking down that Cowboys matchup definitely scared me. It will be a really, really close matchup. The Niners home field advantage, though, if they can just stay healthy, all those weapons, obviously I don't need to name them. I think I just have to pick the Niners. I would have to stick with that team to stay hot and go to the Super Bowl. And I am going against my kind of uh, motto. I usually say that teams without an elite like top five quarterback can't really win a Super Bowl. But I am picking the 49ers to go to a Super Bowl, and spoiler alert, I think they're going to win it. So I guess I'm thinking that Brock Purdy takes a big step up and plays some surgical, safe football in the playoffs. But if he doesn't, the Cowboys will take advantage of him easily.
It's be a really exciting Super Bowl. I'd really like it. Bills, 49ers, Josh Allen versus Brock Purdy, that San Francisco defense, Kyle Shanahan versus Sean McDermott. This would be an awesome Super Bowl. It really would be. It'd be super exciting, be super fun. I like that you're taking, the 49ers to ultimately win it. They have probably the best roster in all the NFL. They have played super good this year. They've really had they started off really hot, went through a couple of down games without Trent Williams, Debo Samuel, but when they're all on the field, they click. So, and they're an electric football team. So I absolutely love it.
All right, well, let's go to your Super Bowl matchup, Ravens versus Cowboys. Who do you have winning this one?
I have the Ravens, the other best team in football, the best team in the AFC, the team that ultimately beat San Francisco, the Lamar Jackson team. It feels like Lamar Jackson season. Everything's kind of going right for him this season. He's playing incredible football. He's getting it done through the air, on the ground. Their defense is just playing at an absurd level right now. Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator, just has this defense just it's incredible. They're playing at a level we haven't seen in a long time, just above everyone else. And so, give me Lamar Jackson in the Super Bowl. That's my pick, and I think it's going to happen.
All right, yeah, I like that a lot. If the Niners don't win, it probably will be the Ravens. Like, not too bold by us, not too exciting by us, not too out there, but I think it is kind of kind of how this year is going. The Ravens and Niners are kind of just the two safe teams that have really been on top of everyone, and everyone else has kind of just been a struggle and a real struggle fest to get up to the top. Yeah, so and my Super Bowl prediction already went over it, but I do have the Niners beating the Bills. It would be an electric matchup. I do just think that that Niners team, I just can't pick against the Niners. I could easily see the Bills winning this matchup, but in any matchup, I just can't see myself and can't get myself to pick against the Niners because they have just so much star talent. They have so many ways to beat you. They have the most stars in the NFL on offense and defense. I think the Niners have to win the Super Bowl. So yeah, I am pretty. I'm not confident, but I'm just excited to see what happens. Purdy needs to have an electric run for this to happen. He has to play really safe and let his stars shine. So yeah, I'm really excited for the playoffs. It should be electric.
It's going to be an awesome, 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 awesome playoff series. A lot of really good teams, a lot of Cinderella stories. Obviously, in the next week we'll know a lot more. This divisional round, the wild card series is gonna be awesome, and maybe we'll see some Cinderella stories come to life. But it should be an awesome playoffs.
And judging by your name, Jim Storbaugh, is your hot take of the night, Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers?
Yes, sir. Jim Harbaugh, congratulations on the national championship. You've accomplished everything you need to in college. Let's move on to the NFL, baby. Let's bring you back to LA. Let's pair you up with Justin Herbert, and let's go chase that Lombardi, baby. That's the hot take of the night.
Heard it here first. Yeah, for real, the Harbaugh and McCarthy are probably gonna go to the NFL, so that is crazy. A big win for them, and yeah, really really fun predicting the entire NFL playoffs. If you want to hear a more in-depth kind of preview of the super wild card weekend, in a few days we'll have that out. So yeah, stay tuned to the NFL Seekers podcast. Like, subscribe, comment, and if you liked, and peace.
Peace.